Hello everyone, so this video I'll teach you about how to project high-res details into a low-res details of the model. Okay, so some things to take note. So you make sure your low-res model follows the high poly model shape well with the very good topology. You make sure your low-res model and the high-res model has exactly the same scale and position. And then also would be good to have a UV in the future. Okay, but for now, maybe if you're just doing a quick one in ZBrush, you don't need to have UV mapping yet. Or you can look into UV master in ZBrush. That could work as well to create UV mapping in ZBrush. But I'm not going to cover that on this video for time purpose. Okay, so we'll use this is first method. We'll use ZBrush to project the details. Okay, and then works well just filling in ZBrush. You can also check out this video um, by this artist, Factor Life. Then he will show you how he did the projection, and then he's doing a lot of adjustments to just match the position. But by right, your position should already be exactly the same, so you don't need to do that too much, I think. Okay, so just make sure your position is exactly the same, and then there's some parts behind where he's showing you how you create the maps as well. That could be useful. All right, so let's let me show you the example now. So we have the sugar dart that we modeled a few weeks ago as a example exercise, and then what I did is I just merged um, all the tools together, so it's just one subtool right here, and the poly count is high right now, so this will be our high res model. Okay, then for this exercise I'll just use the demo soldier project that you open up in over here. Okay, so let me just open a new one, and then I'm gonna go to my shoulder guard and then just delete this shoulder guard. Okay, so I'm gonna bring in the new one over here. Okay, so I'm gonna load my shoulder guard again, and then now I will need to append it in. So I'll do a append, and I'll append the shoulder guard. So I'll bring in one shoulder guard in. And previously I already adjusted the position, but if your position is at the center, you just move it accordingly. Okay, and then it's already positioned over here. So let's say my overall my character is too heavy. Maybe my character now is 15 million, and then I want to optimize this. Instead of 3 million, I want to keep the details, but I want it to be like, at least 1 million for now. So a very quick one I can do. I can just project it from high res into low res polygon. Okay, so this shoulder guard, okay, I'll just bring it up all the way to make it clear for you guys. So mine is the first shade on the top, and I'll do a duplicate. Okay, so the one on top, I'll rename this as high res. The one at the bottom, I'll rename this as low res. Okay, for the low res one, I'll just shift left click to isolate it, and then now I'm gonna do a ZRemesher, and everything is default setting. I'll just let it run. Okay, so before I do that, maybe I just let you see the topology. Behind is flat. So previously I may have made a mistake where there is some errors behind. So just make sure your behind is flat and nice lah. Then when you do a remesh like this, everything will work well. Okay, so I'll just do a ZRemesher and I let it run. It's gonna load for a while because ZRemesher calculates and computes a better version of the model. So it will take a little bit more time, but meanwhile I'll show you the PDF. So ZRemesher will do an amazing work to help you retopologize a low-res model with good edge loops. Those the result later we'll get will be something like this. Okay, we'll get something like this. You see all the edge loops. It's going to be very organized. It's almost like as if someone modeled this in Maya for you. As if, but didn't. So this is just purely from the software itself. So it's really amazing that ZRemesher is able to do that. When ZRemesher first came up, I think quite a few years ago. It's really good for those artists that needs to do a lot of retopology. It's really a lifesaver, I would say. So everything is separated. All quads. There's a very clear and clean edge loops. There's good topology, and then use easy to use as a low res model. And then we can press Control D here to bring it to higher subdivision level. Okay, so this is without the wireframe. On the other hand, if we try to use a Dynamesh to do something like this, firstly, everything joins together, so it's not separated. I'm talking about this kind of edge here. And this is where the software is smart, right? Actually able to know that you're still trying to keep all this. So instead of everything joining together, it's able to separate it. So of course, there are times where we want Dynamesh to join everything together, when we are still dealing with the silhouette. But once we are done with the silhouette, basically we are doing more of ZRemesher and then refining the shape, optimizing the areas, so we won't deal with that so much. Okay, another thing, it has a back topology. So if you look closely, there are triangles. So there are quite a bit of triangles when you use Dynamesh, and we don't mind because all this is in Zbrush. But basically, if you were to port all this into Maya or other 3D softwares, we may have some render problems. So every time you have a triangle, the UV maps doesn't look as great, and then you may have some rendering issues. Especially if you start using normal maps and bump maps or everything together. I mean, the triangles could still work. At least it's not end gone. But obviously, if I were to choose, all quads would be the best for animation. Okay. We also can't use this as a low res model because since everything is separated, the even when we jump it up, we press Control D for subdivision levels. It's not going to retain the details. It's going to be a very weak retopology. So this will be the case where it's not successful. So you probably have to do a manual retopology, like I showed you in the previous video, where the other guy did the manual retopology like this. So these are the manual retopology. So if one day your ZRemesher doesn't work and then it's not able to create the mesh like this for you nicely, you may have to do manual retopology. And don't be lazy, because manual retopology is actually still the best way to have the most control out of shaping your model. All right. Okay, so let me go back to ZBrush. It's already done long time ago, but I was just explaining things just now. So see, our poly count is now 17,000. The mesh is just like I show you in the PDF just now, and it looks great. It looks really great. And yeah, I'll just use this. So if we were to overlay this too, I don't need to move it, but I just want to show you right now. Um, Looks pretty good. Oh, so it's gonna work well when I project the details down. Okay, so how do I do a project? Okay, so I'll do a shift left click on all the eyeballs, and then I'll just open up the high res and my own low res. So I only want these two to have the eye open, the high res and the low res model. And I'll go down to project. When you are using the low res model, you press project all. So once again, I'm using default settings. Repeat again, when I'm using the low res model, I'll press project all. Okay, but oh yeah, I forgot to add a subdivision. So I should get a higher points first. So I'll just on my lower res model right now, I just press Ctrl D. So look at the points, it will go up. Okay, Ctrl D, Ctrl D, Ctrl D. So I think 1 million is enough. So I'll just keep it to 1 million. And obviously I can go up and down the subdivision level. So I press Shift D, I'll go down. Press D, I'll go up again. I think going back and forth between the subdivision level. Okay, so once you have once you have some subdivision level, we can now do a projection. Okay, so once again, select low res model, and then I press project all. So what it does is it's going to create the high res details, and you project all these details onto our model over here. You project a high res down. Okay, so I'm selecting on the low res, I press project out. Okay, so I'll let it compute for a little bit, and it shouldn't take too long once again. And then once it's done, I can actually delete away the high res model. Um, once I check that the result is good enough. Okay, so it's pretty cool that we are able to keep all the high res details, and then we can start to optimize the model more. Right, so I'll off the high res model, and then now this is the low res model. So it has a 4 subdivision level, as I told you before. So when I rotate it around, I press Shift D, I can go down. I press D, I can go up. So in this sense, I have a lot of controls over how high res I want my model to be. So if maybe it's just for a game and want it to be very low res, okay, I can still have a little bit of details, and I can pick the map to it, and then you will be able to retain a lot of this detail. And then as it goes higher, I'll have more and more details on it. Okay, so press Shift D to go down, D to go up. Alright, so it's already done. I can delete the high res model, as I told you, and the low res model will be able to maintain itself. You can also just hide it if you want to keep it for a while longer. Then now on my model, yeah, I'll just have a 1 million body count model, and it's able to retain all the details almost like a 3 million model. Okay, and then yeah, so this is the first method. And the second method, actually taught some of my students before, which is using the XNormal method. And the only difference is that make sure now you have a UV on your model, and then so you refer to this corgi modeling PDF, and then you look at how I export from Maya. You look at how I did the poly painting in Zbrush, and then how I exported it out, and then I use the XNormals to generate the diffuse map, normal maps, and essentially the normal map is the bump map. This will be the one that we need, because the normal map will contain uh, all our high res details. Okay, I'm using more of a poly painting in this PDF, but the idea is the same. If you use XNormals, you project the high res details to a low res model, and then you'll be able to have the maps to make your model work. Okay, once again, cannot emphasize enough, make sure the topology is good, the scale and position is exactly the same. Okay, very important. Then your XNormal will work as well, and you'll be able to project it properly. Okay, so let me just browse my to show you this PDF. And then maybe I'll just jump through really quickly. So the steps before exporting the model for Maya. You want to check that there's no duplicate. You want to check your transformations are good, the history is good. You can do a normal automatic UV, or you can UV better if you have the time. Some info about the UV process. It's like the skin of an object, and then you select your mesh. You do a smooth to it, and then you export the selection as an OBJ. Then you keep the groups to be off, and you exported this OBJ out. Okay, and then the ZBrush poly painting workflow, I don't think I need to go through, but this is just there because I was teaching my students another workflow. But when you are finished, you save the project file, then you export the ZBrush high-res model as a high-res version. So you export two OBJs, one with high-res, one with low-res, and then you have the corgi. let's say you have all the sculpting details here, you'll be exported as well on the high-res model. Okay, so if you have sculpting details, it will also be there. And then you open up Xnormals, which is a freeware for creating all these 3D maps. Very good for normal maps and vector color maps. All right, so you can download it from this link. Open up Xnormal, add the high-res mesh over here under high definition meshes. And then you want to check this if you are using poly painting. Then add in the low poly mesh. Set the directory to where you export the maps to be, and then set the maps that you want to export. Make sure the size is 4K and above so that you make it more high res. Pick the big high res to generate the maps. Okay, so once you generate the map, you get the normal map and you will get the vector color map. So actually this is there's also additional information about using V-Ray and setting up, linking your maps onto it. Okay, if you want, you can have a look. So just want to emphasize, I still think this Xnormals, the maps generated is better than the ones generated in Zbrush itself. So Xnormal, don't just judge it by how it looks. It's actually a really good software, and it works very well to create all these texture maps and displacement maps, normal maps, bump maps that we have to get all these high-res details in ZBrush itself. Okay, so if you want to see how ZBrush creates a map, I can also show you. So you go to Z plugin UV master. I'll press unwrap, and then you can also do more options to have the protect and attract to make an even better UV. But I think for time constraint, I'll just do a very quick unwrap. So I press Shift D to go down to lower subdivision level, unwrap, and I'll just unwrap on this this subtool itself, just this shoulder guard. And then because there's no UV right now, so it needs to create a UV. Then it's also figuring out a way to cut it, just based on the software and what it thinks is reasonable. Okay, so in this case, I think it will work. Of course, it would be better if we made more steps or prop it to Maya to create a map itself. Okay, so it's done. And then if I look at it, I press Morph UV, and then I'll look at the UV. Let me isolate this guy once again. So the UV looks like this. Yeah, as I mentioned, it's probably not perfect, but for a fast one, it's pretty good, right? So it's really good for a fast one. So you can also Google up more about UV master, okay, in ZBrush to give you if you want to learn more about using this. Okay, so okay, so I finished. Morph UV is to just let you see the UV. Okay, it does nothing. So if you want to create the map from ZBrush itself, you go to displacement map, and then you can press create displacement map, and it will give you the information of the map based on just now how we projected the model. So remember just now we projected the model. The details is there now, and it's kept. And then this is how you can save out the information. Okay, and then the normal map is kind of the same thing. So we create normal map. Okay, so this is also shown during the previous video lah. I mean this link over here. So it's the same method that this guy has shown. So you can also check out his link. Okay, so I think I'm jumping back and forth between these two methods. I hope you're not confused. And if you are, just try to understand. I'm trying to teach you something that is a little bit more complicated, a little bit more advanced. If you don't fully understand, it's okay. Just try to take it in right now. And then I think as you practice, as you try to do it on your own, one day it'll just click for you, and then you understand fully. Or when you start to learn more tutorials, you start to understand. So that's what I would say. So don't worry too much, and then just try to take it in and absorb right now, and try your best to understand. That's all. And if you can't, it's okay. One day it will come to you. All right. Okay. So I want to finish off with just another example of creating the character example workflow. There's obviously many different ways to model and many different workflow. As you can see right now, the Maya workflow and the ZBrush workflow is entirely different, and I would say that now you are pretty good at both. So, but I will just give you these few guides. So, hopefully it can help you. So for example, if I want to create a model like this, I will create the body in Dynamesh, and then I'll create the armor pieces in Dynamesh also, and then I'll focus a lot on the silhouette. So the silhouette is very important, and Dynamesh is very good with attacking all these silhouettes. So that's good for me. So after I've done with the project, and if I want to optimize on a certain area, I will either retopologize or manually, or I do a ZRemesh. I project the high res detail to low res, and then to do a subdivision level. So something like what I shown you over here, something like this. And then I can go up, I can go down. So this is something that you could do as well. Optional. Okay, so for other parts, I may also do a low body model from Maya, and then I may bring back to subdivide it more and add details more depending. So I'm just showing example, not specific to what whichever parts, but it could be something I do like this. Okay, so for smaller parts, I could also use iron brush to add some low poly details to quickly create some chains, some smaller things, and then there's a lot of ways that I can put together. So if you add these different methods together, you have many different ways to model. And then you can also shuffle things around. That doesn't mean whichever must come first or whatever. But basically, creating a body, I guess that is definitely first lah. Uh, So for a character like this, I also recommend you not to have more than 12 million poly count. So I think you'll be very heavy, and then when you do rendering or when you're working on it, it can be heavier and heavier. And then maybe what you need to do when it's super heavy, right? In the end, you may need to create separate projects. So for example, if you have something super heavy, then the upper body is one project, your lower body is another project. And then when you finally want to render, you combine both projects together. But you shouldn't really do that lah. Look into optimizing, and then look into how you can make your project a little bit lighter, and then you may not need so much polygons. Okay, and then I'll say from a character from the hip upwards, uh, preferably not more than 9 million poly counts. So that's what I can say. Okay, also shown you this before. This is the earthquake model in the ZBrush demo projects, and then you can see just 3.1 million poly count is able to have so much nice details over here. Feel free to go check out the earthquake model, and then you'll be able to analyze and understand how others do it using subdivision, using just optimizing methods of all the details as well. Okay, so just 3.1 million polygon. Okay, so it comes down to experience, practice, and knowing how far you can push for your model. And then so you try to create a model that looks great while not overdoing the poly count if possible. Okay, so I hope you have learned well. And then the final word for you, use using ZRemesher and subdivision levels to optimize your models is still just optional. So just don't want to put too much stress on you and on for your learning. Still just optional. So if you are not able to fully understand, it's okay. But just know that there are methods out there that can help you optimize this. And then I'll also try to show you more um, in the future. Probably another 4 more weeks, I think. Okay, so this is also because you are very new to ZBrush. I want you to just focus on the fun part. A lot of Dynamesh, a lot of less restrictions, and then less errors, and then because there is more technicalities and things you need to worry about when you start doing retopology, and you will get more advanced. And then, but of course, feel free to learn on your own. Highly encourage. All right. So you'll be able to pick up Dynamesh, ZRemesher, subdivision levels well on your own. So it just comes with all the experience. So be like water. This is what Bruce Lee says, and act according to the situation. Okay, I'm stealing this quote from this guy, which he also has a video to get the reference, and you would hopefully after you watch this video, you will know when to use Dynamesh and ZRemesher even better. Okay, so I think I don't want to play the video here. I'll just send you the link, and then you can check it out in the description. So at some point he'll talk about Bruce Lee, and then how you should use it as you wish. Use it, be like water, and act according to the situation. Okay, actually I should play this part. Okay, I'm not sure if you can hear it, so never mind. So yeah, I'll just send the link over there, and I hope you enjoy this video. It's probably a bit long, not easy to teach all these topics as well. I hope you learn something. If not, just don't worry. One day, if you really want to understand it, you will be able to understand it. All right. So thank you for your attention, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.